They don't come with warning signs. They smile, they laugh, they blend in. But deep inside, something isn't right. Carl Jung believed that the most dangerous people in our lives aren't the loudest, the angriest, or even the most violent. They're the ones who slip in quietly, the ones who mirror our emotions, who seem harmless until it's too late. Because what we fail to see, what we often refuse to see, is that evil doesn't always come with a weapon. Sometimes it comes wearing a smile, and by the time we notice, it's already inside us. Jung called it the shadow, the hidden unconscious part of the human psyche. But he didn't just mean your own shadow, he meant theirs too. The people who haven't faced their darkness, who deny it, repress it, and then project it onto the world. These are the ones you must avoid, not out of fear, but out of self-preservation. This is not about judging others, it's about protecting your soul. Because there are people, ordinary on the surface, who can twist your thoughts, drain your energy, and make you question your own reality. People who don't need to attack you to destroy you. They simply need to be close enough, long enough. Jung once wrote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And those who avoid their soul the longest, they become something else." In this video, we'll explore 6 psychological archetypes, 6 types of dangerous people Jung warned us about. Not mythical villains, real ones, the kind you meet at work, in relationships, even in your own family. This is a guide not to judge others, but to recognize the patterns, because once you see the pattern, you can protect yourself. Some people are wounded, others are wicked. The difference is everything, and Jung believed if you don't understand the darkness in others, you'll never truly be free from it. They never raise their voice. They never threaten. They don't need to, because their weapon is suffering. The eternal victim is not just someone who's had a hard life. We all suffer. We all struggle. But this person, this psychological type, needs to suffer. They wrap themselves in pain like armor. And when they speak, it's always the same story. Look what the world did to me. Carl Jung saw this pattern as a deep neurosis, a fragile ego trapped in a loop of helplessness and blame, not because of what happened to them, but because they refuse to grow from it. Pain for them isn't a wound to heal. It's a badge to flash, a tool to extract sympathy, and slowly control. They guilt you into staying, guilt you into silence, guilt you into giving again and again, while they give nothing back. At first, they seem vulnerable, gentle, misunderstood. But over time, something feels off. You find yourself apologizing more. You find yourself questioning whether you're the bad person. You become smaller so they can feel bigger. This is not kindness. It's emotional blackmail. Jung believed that the people who resist growth are the most dangerous, because they don't just destroy themselves, they pull others down with them. The eternal victim can't allow you to be strong. Your strength is a threat. Your healing is a betrayal. Because if you get better, it means they could too, and that terrifies them. So they cling to their story. They refuse transformation. And they poison anyone who tries to rise beyond them. But here's the truth. Not all pain deserves attention. Some pain becomes a performance, and when it does, it stops being honest. There's a difference between being wounded and being addicted to being wounded. Jung warned that those who don't confront their shadow, the repressed part of themselves, project it onto others. For the eternal victim, everyone else becomes the villain. Everyone else is responsible. Never them, and here's the trap. The more you try to help them, the worse you'll feel, because they don't want help. They want a witness, an audience, a caretaker, a scapegoat. You'll give everything, and it will never be enough. So how? Do you protect yourself? You stop feeding the story. You stop walking on eggshells. You recognize that healing is a choice, and not everyone chooses it. And most importantly, you stop letting guilt be your compass. Because guilt is their game, and if you let them play it long enough, they'll convince you that your life belongs to their pain. They say all the right things. They smile with precision. They make you feel seen until you're no longer useful. The mask wearer is the most dangerous kind of manipulator, not because they're obvious, but because they're invisible. Carl Jung believed that most people live behind masks. He called it the persona, the social face we wear to survive. But the mask wearer doesn't just wear a persona. They become it. They forget there's a real self beneath the surface. They abandon authenticity in favor of control. First, they seem magnetic. They mirror your emotions, they understand your language, they say what you want to hear when you need to hear it. But slowly the cracks begin to show. They avoid accountability. They shift when cornered. Their charm begins to feel cold, calculated. That's because the mask wearer isn't connecting with you. They're performing for you. You're not in a relationship with them. You're in a transaction. What makes them truly dangerous is not what they do. It's what they lack: depth, conscience, and true identity. Jung warned that people who rely too heavily on the persona become hollow. They lose touch with their shadow, the darker truths of their psyche, and instead live a life of performance. But when you suppress the shadow for too long, it starts to leak. This is why the mask wearer can turn cruel without warning. One day they're praising you, the next they're indifferent, they ghost, they discard. They make you feel crazy for ever trusting them, because connection was never the goal. Control was. The mask wearer often rises in leadership roles, relationships, even spiritual communities. They study emotions like blueprints. They imitate empathy, not out of love, but out of strategy. They don't feel safe being vulnerable, so they make others vulnerable instead. They're not interested in being loved. They're addicted to being admired. And here lies the danger. Their manipulation isn't always conscious. Some mask wearers don't know who they are. They've worn the mask for so long they believe it's real, but underneath is a hollow soul, starving for validation, terrified of being seen. If you challenge the mask, they'll punish you. If you see behind it, they'll run. And if you try to get closer, they'll make you feel like you're the problem. The trap is thinking you can save them. You can't. You're not dealing with a real person. You're dealing with a performance, so how do you escape? By stopping the applause, by stepping off their stage, by refusing to mistake charisma for character, because not everyone who smiles is your friend, and not every connection is real. They enter your life like lightning, fast, exciting, unpredictable, and before you know it, you're caught in a storm you can't escape. The chaos bringer doesn't destroy with violence. They destroy with disruption, a trail of broken plans. Emotional outbursts and silent guilt follows wherever they go, and somehow it's never their fault. Carl Jung believed that some people are deeply possessed by unconscious forces, untamed archetypes within the psyche that haven't been integrated. The chaos bringer is one of them. They are ruled by impulse, emotion, urgency. They crave intensity, not stability. And when life becomes calm, they panic. Because to them, peace feels like suffocation. So they create drama, stir conflict, sabotage good things, not out of cruelty, but out of habit. They don't know who they are without a crisis. The chaos bringer has never made peace with their inner world. Their thoughts race, their feelings control them. And because they've never learned to master themselves, they try to master others through emotional volatility. They say they love you, but love to them is not consistency. It's adrenaline. They'll pull you close, then push you away, beg you to stay, then blame you for staying. And you'll get trapped in a cycle, rescuing them, calming them, fixing what they broke. But it never ends, because the chaos isn't outside of them, it is them. Jung warned that the unconscious, when left unchecked, will rule your life. And you will call it fate. The chaos bringer does exactly that. They live in reaction. They don't reflect. They explode. They don't build. They burn. And in every mess they create, they find someone else to blame. Here's the terrifying part. They often appear charismatic, fun, even alive in ways others aren't. That's the bait. They bring passion, unpredictability, energy. But beneath the surface lies emotional immaturity and a deep fear of stillness. Because in stillness the truth comes out. So they keep moving, keep provoking, keep pulling everyone into their personal tornado, and if you stay near them long enough, you'll start to crave the chaos too. You'll normalize it. You'll call it passion or love or just how they are. But deep down, you'll feel exhausted, drained, unstable. Because chaos is addictive, but it's also contagious. How do you protect yourself? By recognizing the difference between energy and instability, by remembering that peace isn't boring, it's healing, and by understanding that some people don't want balance. They want explosions, and if you stay close, you'll become the collateral damage. They speak of justice, of compassion, of doing what's right. But listen closely, and you'll hear something colder underneath. The moral narcissist doesn't want truth. They want power, disguised as goodness. Carl Jung warned that morality, when inflated, becomes a mask for the shadow. The darker parts of the psyche don't disappear just because we pretend to be righteous. In fact, they grow stronger when ignored. The moral narcissist is the embodiment of that danger. They use ethical language to control. They use guilt to silence. They don't argue, they shame. To them, disagreement isn't a conversation, it's heresy. You're not just wrong, you're evil. And they are always the better person. This is not real virtue. This is moral inflation, what Jung described as the ego hijacking ethics to dominate others. And behind the polished words, the social justice slogans, and the noble causes, lies something rotten: pride, control, superiority. The moral narcissist doesn't serve humanity. They serve their image. They collect good deeds like trophies. They use kindness as leverage. And when you refuse to agree with them, they don't reflect. They condemn. This is why they're dangerous. They make cruelty look holy. They'll destroy reputations, cut people off, spread whispers, all in the name of being on the right side. They think they've transcended the shadow. But in truth, they've been consumed by it. Jung believed that the refusal to confront one's own darkness leads to projection. So the moral narcissist doesn't look inward. They cast their inner ugliness onto others. They need enemies, people, to punish. It gives them a role: the avenger, the enlightened, the pure. But if you've ever been close to one, you know the truth. They're not at peace. They're brittle, easily offended, emotionally volatile beneath the surface, because deep down their virtue is not grounded in wisdom. It's grounded in fear. Fear of being ordinary, fear of being seen, fear of their own shadow. So, how do you escape their moral maze? By refusing to play the purity game. By recognizing that real goodness is humble, quiet, and self-aware. And by remembering that someone who truly understands morality doesn't need to weaponize it. Because when virtue becomes performance, it's no longer virtue. It's manipulation. They're never the loudest voice in the room. They don't need to be. Because by the time you realize you've been manipulated, they're already 10 steps ahead. The puppet master doesn't seek attention. They seek control. Carl Jung believed that those who repress their desire for power often end up expressing it in covert, destructive ways. The puppet master is a master of this repression. They appear neutral, calm, even humble. But beneath that quiet demeanor is a mind that treats life like a chessboard. They don't shout, they whisper. They don't argue, they suggest. They don't dominate, they orchestrate. Everything they do has a purpose. Every compliment, every silence, every helpful gesture is a calculated move. And the goal is always the same: influence without exposure. The puppet master thrives in environments where accountability is loose and perception is everything. They know how to pull emotional strings without leaving fingerprints. Jung warned that the shadow, when denied, doesn't disappear. It hides in sophistication. And the puppet master has refined their darkness into an art form. They study people. They observe weaknesses. They exploit wounds you didn't know you had. They won't confront you, they'll turn others against you. They won't tell you what to do. They'll make you believe it was your idea all along. And when things fall apart, they'll stand in the corner untouched, innocent, blameless, almost helpful. But make no mistake, nothing around them is an accident. They are often found behind powerful leaders, inside trusted institutions, even within families, quietly steering the wheel, never taking the blame. Their strength lies in subtlety. They are masters of plausible deniability. You'll question your instincts, doubt your memories, wonder if you are the problem, because their power isn't in domination. It's in invisibility. Jung understood that those who avoid integrating their desire for influence are often the ones most desperate to possess it. But unlike overt tyrants, the puppet master cloaks control in kindness, in logic, even in morality. They manipulate not through fear, but through dependency. You feel you need them for approval, for clarity, for safety. And that's when you've already lost. So how do you protect yourself? By watching patterns, not words. By trusting your gut when something feels off. By recognizing that real guidance empowers you. It doesn't bind you in invisible strings. Because anyone who fears being seen should never be trusted with your soul. They don't yell, they don't threaten, they don't even need to speak because their presence alone feels like gravity, pulling you downward, draining the light out of the room. This is the walking void, not a person, but an absence. Not a villain, but a vacuum. Carl Jung warned that some people become possessed by what he called psychic emptiness, a condition where the ego has no center, no inner structure, no real self. In their place is a hollow mirror, reflecting whoever they're with. At first they seem perfect, agreeable, curious. They laugh at your jokes, mirror your beliefs, match your pace. But as time goes on, a strange unease begins to surface. Because they have no core, no convictions, no emotional depth, no spiritual roots, only a shape-shifting shell. You'll start to feel it in small ways, conversations that go nowhere, a coldness behind their smiles, a subtle sense that they're studying you, absorbing what they need to mimic being human. The walking void doesn't want to connect. They want to consume your personality, your energy, your essence. And once they've mirrored enough to be accepted, they begin to drain you. You feel exhausted around them, but you don't know why. You share your passions, and they give nothing back. You ask questions, and they dodge, deflect, disappear, because there's nothing inside. Jung believed that if a person fails to confront their unconscious, the soul begins to starve, and in that starvation, the psyche rots, leaving behind a being that survives only through imitation. That's what makes the walking void dangerous. They don't argue. They disappear when things get real. They don't explode. They erode, slowly dulling your spirit, turning vibrant things gray. And the worst part? They often pass as harmless, quiet, polite, pleasant. But underneath is a chilling truth. They are so disconnected from themselves, they will never be able to connect with you. They don't betray you like the puppet master. They don't attack you like the chaos bringer. They absorb you until you start to forget who you are. You'll feel alone in their presence, not because they push you away, but because they were never really there. Jung saw this as the result of spiritual neglect. When a person avoids all pain, all depth, all shadow, they become blank, and in that blankness they begin to infect others with their void. So how do you protect yourself? By refusing to abandon your soul for the comfort of surface-level peace. By recognizing that real relationships are built on depth, not imitation. And by remembering it's better to be alone than to be slowly erased by someone who feels like nothing. Because not all dangers are loud. Some are silent. They rarely look like villains. Sometimes they look like friends. Sometimes they even look like you, the chaos bringer, the manipulator, the moral narcissist, the puppet master, the walking void. Each one carries a mask. But Jung never taught us to fear them. He taught us to recognize them, because the people who infect us the deepest are often the ones who reflect the parts of ourselves we've refused to confront. Your survival isn't just about avoiding these archetypes. It's about realizing that they live in you too. You've been the manipulator when you were desperate for control. You've worn the moral mask when you couldn't face your own guilt. You've echoed the void when you shut down instead of feeling. And that's the terrifying beauty of Jung's psychology. The people who hurt us most often reveal the pieces we've exiled. The real danger is not them alone. It's our blindness to what they trigger within us. So what now? You watch, you question, you dig, not just into others, into yourself, because awareness is your weapon, boundaries are your shield, and self-integration is your only way out. This isn't about paranoia, it's about clarity, about knowing who belongs in your soul's orbit and who only wants to hijack it. Jung once said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Don't be one of those people. Face it, name it, own it. That's how you become immune to them, not by hiding in fear, but by stepping into the shadow and dragging the truth into the light. If you've seen these people, felt their grip, or worse, and become one of them, then don't walk away unchanged. Subscribe, because we don't make noise, we make clarity. And the more you understand how the human psyche really works, the harder it becomes for anyone to manipulate yours. Like this video, if you've ever faced any of these psychological predators, share it with someone who might be in their orbit right now and might not even know it. And remember, it's not the loud threats that destroy us. It's the ones hiding behind charm, virtue, and silence. Know them, avoid them, and above all, never become them.